but you also of where all the parts fit into the whole. And so that's what this is. If you think of an aircraft, for example, you might have wings, engine, electronics, fuselage, a few other big systems, and then you'll have subsystems, and you'll keep breaking it down. And if you want to do something stupidly complex, like the Apollo program, you break it all down into chunks. So every chunk is its own giantly complex project with maybe thousands and thousands of things going on now in requirements and so on, and simplify the problem at the interfaces. And then everything in your hierarchical design needs to map to something that's going in your through the phases tracking. Does that make any sense to you? And the point is
Yeah,
of
it
doing
does.
it this way is that you don't do anything that doesn't answer a question or a need posed by the project, and you do everything that is an identified need of the project.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bob. Okay, y'all ready to start chapter 7 questions? All right, let's do it. Question 1. Joseph is assessing each design option based upon the potential value and it is expected to deliver and ensuring that it represents the most effective trade-offs. Which of the following would he not consider in this activity? So first of all, which task is this?
That's in the define design options.
Find design options. Everybody agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, which would he not consider? So he's going to consider 3 of these and not the 4th. Dependencies between requirements, the constraints on the solution, requirements allocation, or available resources.
Maybe resources.
So you think he does the other 3, Arena?
Yeah. So when we analyze the potential value, I don't think we discuss the resources.
Okay. Everybody agree? Anybody agree?
I might be wrong.
I'm hearing crickets.
It sounds good.
Okay, well, let's
I'll go
test
with
it. Okay.
Oh, it's
So-
requirements.
Requirements allocation should have been considering while finding design options. And we are actually in 6. We are in analyze potential value.
Okay.
So let's look at the difference real quick.
Hmm.
So we are down here. And you're right. If it was to find design options, we should have done it. But we are down here in expected benefits, expected cost, determine value, and assess design options.
Okay, good to know.
But if we're going to make mistakes, we want to do it now instead of whenever you sit down for the test. So
Right.
now we learn. If you got that wrong, look at 7.5 so that you get it right. Okay. Genevieve and her team of business analysts are in the process of ensuring that all requirements align to the business need and the design satisfies the requirements. They find it difficult to validate the design against the requirements. What could be the problem? So first of all, process of ensuring, what task is she doing here?
Validating requirements.
Okay, so if you find it difficult to validate the requirements according to the BABOK, would it be the elicitation results might have been generated by a different business analyst? That would be a result of scope creep. The business analyst did not invite all the downstream stakeholders who would understand design better, or the requirements might be missing or incorrectly specified, or the design might not be right. Which of those can we eliminate?
A and C.
We can eliminate C and D.
A and
A,
C.
Oh.
C.
A and C, okay. I agree that one stinks. And I agree this one stinks. So is it because our requirements are not correct or we have scope creep?
It's hard because it's saying missing requirements or you have extra requirements with the scope creep.
Okay. So are you saying
gonna
that D is
say
the answer?
D. I'm gonna say D. Yeah.
Delta.
Let's test it. If a design cannot be validated to support a requirement, there might be missing or misunderstood requirements, or the design must change. Oh my goodness, like you studied or something. I'm so proud. Good job.
Sandra, that was the first thing I thought. Really.
Good job. Those of you on camera, I want to say one more time how much I appreciate you being on camera. It helps me a great deal. And I know that you didn't just come in, log in, and walk away, you know. So thank you for being on camera. Which of the following statements is not true? Meaning 3 are true, 1 is not. Requirements and designs may be either high level or very detailed based upon what is inappropriate to those consuming information. When the focus of the specifying and modeling activity is on understanding the need, the outputs are referred to as designs. When the focus on specifying modeling activities on the solution, the outputs are referred to as requirements. One person's designs may be another person's requirements. Or the main difference between requirements and designs is how they are used and by whom. First, let's eliminate one of these. What do you think?
C, eliminate.
Yes.
Eliminate that because it's
Oh, C.
C?
Yeah.
Okay. See that one?
It's true. Mm-hmm.
This one is true. Okay.
I think
I think
A
A is also true.
yeah, A is also true. And
Okay.
then
That one's true. So
D
A,
as well.
C.
I think D is also true. So I think the correct answer here is
B.
B. Yeah.
So let's look at B.
Yeah.
When we're trying to understand the need, it says the outputs are referred to as designs. That's backwards.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Need is requirements.
Mhm.
Solution is design. Ta-da! Y'all's reasoning is very solid. Good job. And those of you who are participating in the conversation, I know that you're getting it. Thank you very much. Not every process analyzed will be transformed by a software solution. So processes that are flagged in the design plan as not being a candidate for automation will not undergo further elaboration during the technical design. With that premise, which of the following statements is not true? So in the BABOK company, we are only doing software development. We don't do process improvement. We don't do anything else. We only do software development, which is not what you do in any other company in the world. Okay, but for the BABOK company, according to the BABOK, this is true. So the business analyst
Isn't there a whole chapter based on points of view that give the different cases where it discusses not doing software development? You have to think of this stuff more in general.
Yes, that's in the perspectives, but because Watermark tells us that that's not really used in the test, we pretty much ignore it. So the rest of the whole BABOK is about software development. The business analyst should refrain from documenting recommendations to transform the process that are outside the scope of the software automation. The business analyst will have decomposed and modeled the process and identified new procedures. The business analyst should present recommendations to the appropriate project stakeholders to determine if proposed improvements should be considered for implementation. or the business analyst and the process owner may have determined new manual steps that may streamline and improve the current process. So which one is not true? Meaning 3 are true. Can we talk about what is true
A sounds to be true.
according to the BABOK? A sounds to be true. Everybody agree A is true?
Well, according to the scenario.
Okay.
Mhm.
How about B? Is B true?
That sounds like further elaboration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
So
it might not be true.
Okay, so maybe this one is not true. Let's check the others. How about C? Is C true? According to the BABOK?
Yeah, that one sounds true.
Okay. And D. Is D true?
Tia, can you please repeat again? What do you mean according to the BABOK? BABOK says that all the solutions should be a software solution? I couldn't catch that part.
Whenever I say according to the BABOK, I mean you need to answer the question the way the BABOK says is correct, even if
Okay.
it doesn't agree with your real life experience.
Okay. And then according to BABOK, a solution can be anything. I mean, not necessarily to be a software solution, isn't it?
I agree, but in this scenario,
Okay.
it's
It's
got to
a
be software
software.
solution.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so do we feel that B is the correct answer?
Yeah. D is also
Yeah, it doesn't quite sound right on D
Yeah.
then if this was going to
like a
be a,
step by step to streamline and improve the current process.
but it's saying a new manual steps.
Yeah,
And if
I
this
don't
is
like
a
D.
software solution, then that doesn't make sense then.
I will go for D.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's
Manual
test
steps
D.
don't always mean streamline.
It's more
Right.
general.
Let's check it.
What?
Ooh, A.
Okay, so the business analyst should consider documenting recommendations, for instance, simplifying the work people perform by re-engineering or sharing processes, even though they're outside the scope of automation. So this agrees with real life for me.
Yeah.
That question is just dumb. And
Thanks,
that
Bob.
scenario
Thank
is
you.
just dumb. The way you're thinking about it is great. The use of this question is to make you aware of a certain tiny section of the book. It's good to do for an exercise. Like I said a zillion times, the questions on the actual exam are better and more fair than this.
The exam is easier than this. It's absolutely true. Okay, let's go to number 5. You have been assigned to specify requirements as a brief statement about what people do or need to do when using a solution. Which one of the following criteria is not part of your activity? To specify requirements as a brief statement about what people do or need to do when using the solution is the definition or explanation for one of our techniques. Can anybody tell me what technique that is? Yes, Bob.
Yeah.
No,
Go ahead.
Anybody?
giving a hint.
Specify and modeling requirements.
Okay, let's go into the answers. A short description of the solution capability that provides value to the stakeholder. This is the definition of which technique?
Oh, that's talking about a user story.
Right.
That's user story. Good job. Okay. detailed information in the form of a story that allows the developer to build through several releases.
It's also a user story.
Is that also a user story?
That's it. Like, it's a form of a story that allows the developer. So it's got to be.
This is
It's like
Uh,
a
not
big
really.
story task.
Story is not a detailed.
Okay.
And it is
Detailed
not going to be
information.
several releases, I believe.
Okay.
Allows the developer to build.
High level information that is informal. So a brief statement about what people do or need to do when using a solution. Is this user stories? And which of the following is not part of that? Would it be the high level information that is informal?
So I wanted to ask something. So if I'm describing something for people in a like in corporate word, it has to be formal because we develop a solution around that. So we want to have like any kind of documentation that people can refer to use the solution, right? So it won't be informal, right?
I think your understanding of formal and informal in this case might be a little different than what the BABOK means. But
Are they asking if there's a structure? Is that what it means by formal and informal? Because there's a formal structure for a user story.
it's a suggested structure for a user story. Do we feel like C is the right answer?
I just have no idea what it
No,
means.
I mean, I
Sure.
see informal and formal here as a maybe as an officially approved and not approved requirement.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
Oh, it's detailed. It is the one that I said. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
User
Yeah.
stories are typically a sentence or two that
Mm.
describe who has a need and the goal they are trying to achieve. They are not detailed. So in the
They're not
real
detailed.
world, acceptance criteria is super detailed, right? The story itself is not detailed.
You also can break epics into stories and stories into tasks. So you can always break things down over time in more detail and so on.
Okay.
So yeah, if our next question is a not question, I'm gonna think you set us up tonight.
The randomizer is just doing its thing.
Okay, I went to my co-pilot and said in the BABOK guide, formal and informal, what does it mean? It typically refers to as a level of structure or rigor applied to it. So formal is a structured approach often documented and governed by predefined standards and methodologies. Informal is more flexible and may not require strict documentation or approvals.
Okay.
Okay.
And user stories can be in any form. I mean, we have a recommended structure, but it's not necessarily that always we should follow that structure. It can be in any form, isn't it?
Well, the BABOK talks about user stories are most typically who, what, and why.
But it is only a recommended. It is a recommended format, but we can write and capture user stories in any format. It can be a narrative, and we don't have to follow that structure. It is just a convention and a recommendation.
It is a convention or recommendation. In the real world, you could do anything you want. The BABOK is they just want you to know that that is recommended by the BABOK. It's most commonly used.
Okay.
I've worked in companies that we use totally different structures, and that's just because that's what the team understood and could work with. XYZ is an organization that uses agile methodology. The organization is looking for the best solution for the project team collaboration and artifact storage. Marcus has been hired as a business analyst and is tasked with carrying out an analysis between using Confluent site versus a SharePoint site. Which of the following is best suited to his needs? So he's looking at different solutions. So which task is he in?
And
Looking
Analyzing
for the
design
best
options.
solution evaluation, which is not within this knowledge area.
No, it's analyzing design options.
yeah,
Defining design options,
No, analyzing design options, yeah, and recommending a solution.
analyzing potential value and recommending solution.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. So whenever he's doing a comparison between two things and he's got different elements to be compared, would he use a matrix? Would he use notations? Would he use a state diagram? Or would he use a model?
Matrix.
Yeah, I agree.
Why do you like matrix, Irina?
So in matrix, we compare like two or more entities. Yeah, it's a visual tool which allows to see the benefits.
Right. So if you haven't picked up on it, a matrix is a spreadsheet or a table. And the whole key of it is you've got things that you're comparing apples to apples on it. You know, you want to know the price for both things. You
Yeah.
want to know how long the contract is for both things.
Same
So you have these
parameter
things.
for both options.
Yes. Yes. So it works well as a matrix. Matrix can be used to compare features for both Confluence and SharePoint sites to determine which site best meets the need of the project team collaboration and storage needs of the organization. Matrices are also really easy for people to understand. The easiest thing for people to understand is pictures. The next easiest thing for people to understand is matrices. The next is probably bullet points. And then the last thing for people to understand is globs of text. Which of the following least describes why activity diagram might be utilized? So let's talk about what is the goal or purpose of an activity diagram. Does anybody remember the definition? The purpose?
Is it to show the order of the activity?
It shows workflows.
workflow.
I do this, then I hand it to you, and you do this. Okay, so which one is least describes why it might be utilized? An activity diagram is effective at showing how to handle a large number of scenarios and parallel branches. An activity diagram facilitates the identification of potential improvements by highlighting pain points in the process structure. An activity diagram can elaborate on a single use case, or an activity diagram utilizes business process model notation, BPMN, so it can distinguish the activities of different participants in a process with either pools or swim lanes. Can we eliminate any? Are any of these true? Because it's going to be least true.
C may be true. So I would eliminate that.
C
Mm-hmm.
as in cat, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what else is true?
I don't
It
want to say
can
that
do it.
B.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say B because sometimes when I'm doing workflows like that, I'll realize, okay, there's too much work going on in this section.
Okay.
Too many, yeah.
Maybe A is the correct answer. So a large number of scenarios. Not sure that this is an activity.
Parallel branches.
Normally, you have one use case, one scenario.
Okay.
Remember, the question is least, so all may be
Least.
true. Which one is least true? And that's kind of a judgment call to me.
Mm.
True.
Well,
One thing I don't like about D is it's telling us which kind of notation to use. But I don't know.
We
Let's
should
test
not be
A.
bonded to use only one notation.
We are not limited to one notation. So
So
let's
maybe
test A.
Ah,
D is the
Okay.
correct
bottom
answer.
one. I didn't like the
So
Because cool.
Hey,
So
hey,
in the real world, if you get too many different scenarios in a single activity diagram, it turns into what we used to call a Death Star. You know, it's like it almost has to be 3D rotated where you can figure out what goes where, and it was hard to follow. In the real world, I would say that A is the correct answer, but according to the Babok, it doesn't like it that we said it was limited to BPMN because they want us to use UML for an activity diagram. Now, in the real world,
also,
yes, Bob.
an activity diagram may be a part of UML, but it's not UML per se. UML is a family of like 10 or 12 techniques that
Okay.
you all stitch together, and it's a view of the problem from every possible angle. And that's just goofy logic.
Okay. But according to the
We're
Babok,
having a high proportion of goofiness this evening.
well, it's our last night on chapter 7, so that makes perfect sense. According
But
to the
y'all are
Babok,
doing great.
according to the Babok, they want you to use UML, Unified Modeling Language, for activity diagrams. If you have any questions, check the 35th technique.
Is activity flow the same thing as activity diagram?
No, it's in process modeling on page 321.
So this has nothing to do with chapter 7.
Yes, it does. This is one of the techniques that is used in the tasks in chapter 7.
Perhaps when we need to specify and model the requirements, so we can use
Yes.
we can use it as a technique, Stephen.
Mhm. Yeah, it's one of the techniques you use in specified model requirements. You're right.
And also the previous question, I mean, D is not a good option because it says that BP, if you use BPMN to distinguish the activities of different participants, so we can use another notation, but still we can do that. So it is kind of, it says that, you know, this is a wrong statement.
It looks like we need to open up the Babok. Let me get that done real quick.
While you're doing that, I want to call out Michelle for saying she didn't want a not question, so we got one that was even worse.
And also, if you have many activities, still we can use the activity diagram. So maybe we can, you know, we can put many activities in a sub process. So still we will have a very good, concise diagram. But if someone want more details, they can click and they can, you know, see other diagrams. So many activities should not be a problem for us to draw a diagram, isn't it?
Activity diagram is one of the use cases as defined in UML. It wants you to use UML for activity diagram according to the Babok, but I'll tell you in the real world, I use whatever the people that are going to view it understand. And I got dinged the other day because I had a person come on the chapter and he's doing BPMN, and he looked at mine, he says, that's not right. And I'm like, that's what my stakeholders understand. So I'm not worried about it. You know, I may not conform to the rules that you have, but my stakeholders understand it and we can get to good decisions this way. So according to the Babok,
Every
email for activity
industry
diagram.
has its own way of drawing things. The way that's shown there, or in any UML book, or BPMN book, or anything else. Use it if their people insist on it, but the main thing is understanding.
Yep. It's the whole purpose that we went into Agile and everything else is to improve understanding. Generally, when would a business analyst model requirements within a change initiative? This is not a not question. I feel so excited for you, Michelle. Okay. When would we model requirements in a change initiative? Would it be after evaluating the solution, after requirements elicitation, before requirements elicitation, or at any point in the change initiative?
B.
I would say D as in dog.
B.
Oh, you
but
had B as in boy?
I think it's correct.
Well,
answer.
let's talk about it. Specifying modeling requirements. You
Oh,
use elicitation results confirmed and unconfirmed.
confirmed, maybe.
Confirmed, but not necessarily to be verified and validated, so we can model it.
So we first elicit
Yeah.
and then model, specify and model.
Yeah, so B sounds to be the correct answer. I agree.
Okay, let's test B. Requirements
Me-
elicitation generally precedes analysis and is stated as an input into specified model requirements task. Although the BABOK states elicitation and modeling may occur sequentially, iteratively, or concurrently, you must start with some amount of elicited information before you can model that elicited information.
So I
The
think
thing that gets me crazy here is whenever I first get a business case, I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't even, contacted the project manager yet, but I also already have some information from the document. I have now elicited information from the document. I start documenting, I start making my diagrams. And so it sounds like I should, from this, after requirements elicitation, but I have started elicitation whenever I have that document, and then I continue elicitation and I continue to refine. Any questions?
The trick here is in a change initiative.
Mhm.
It may sound a little bit confusing, but I think the process is the same, right? If we like do it
Anytime.
from scratch or do it for change.
Well, here's the deal. Anytime you make a change, it doesn't matter if you have a solution in place or if it's from scratch, it's still going to be change.
Mhm.
So everything is a change initiative. Richard, you're allowed to eat your dinner off camera. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, you're still here.
And one thing I was thinking about the previous question is, I was looking at it and also think about the input for that task. And literally the input for that task was elicitation result at any state. So that's the way I kind of look at it. So
Yeah,
just wanted to
good.
share
That's
that.
a good point, Kasi. Thank you. The lead BA has engaged you to outline the design possibilities that would satisfy a set of requirements in a project. Which set of activities is the lead analyst involved in? So you want to outline the design possibilities that would satisfy a set of requirements. What task is that?
Define design.
Design options.
Yeah. Defining the design
Define
option.
design
Okay.
options.
So if we're in define design options, these would be the elements of define design options. Defining solution approaches, identifying improvement opportunities, requirements allocation, describing design options, determining expected benefits, determining expected costs, determining value, assess design options, analyzing current state, defining future state, assessing risks, defining change strategy, or defining solution option approaches, identifying improvement opportunities, and requirements allocation. Which of these can we eliminate?
B might be a correct answer.
You like B?
It's
So
messy.
like requirements allocation is not at this task. It comes before that. That's why I eliminated A
Good
and
reasoning.
D.
Okay.
And
Maybe a strategy analysis.
analyzing current state. I don't know. So between B and C, it's B.
I think C is strategy analysis. So
Yeah.
Yep. These are task and strategy analysis.
How about A? What's wrong with A?
Yeah, I was gonna say I would
Requirements
like
allocation.
describe.
This is for define design options.
For define design options,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one is
Also,
describing
I
design
see
options.
as a describing design options.
Yeah.
But what about requirements allocation? Is it a part of this
It
task? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Page
I would
260.
go with A then.
Oh, then okay.
Page 154.
these
Okay.
are the elements
Yep.
in define design options, which is what the business
Describing
analyst
design
is engaged in. This is why we identify which task we're in so we can narrow it down and pinpoint it.
Mm.
So I'm going to go through it one more time. For define design options, the these elements are defining solution approaches, identifying improvement opportunities, requirement allocation to the different iterations, and then describing your design options. 4 elements in that one. Data about data can best be described as what? Are they entities, attributes, metadata, or data model?
I'll be C, metadata.
I second that.
You are correct. Metadata describes what the entities represent, when and why and they were created or changed, how they should be used, how often they're used, when and by whom. In essence, metadata is the information or data about the data. How many of y'all have never used metadata? That this seems like a bunch of word salad to you? Anybody?
I love to use it.
I never use it. I just know
Okay.
about it.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you just a tidbit here. Metadata is like this. If I say in this field is called the name field.
Mhm.
About this field, you can put up to 30 characters. They can be alpha characters, they can be special characters, which means you can have a hyphen in there in case somebody's name has a hyphen. You can decide if you can let them use a number or not. I mean, it's what can be put in that field, what cannot be put in that field, what's the definition of that field, how will that field be used? I mean, it's everything about that field. That's metadata, okay?
Yeah.
And then it goes into this field is owned by this person. Sometimes regulatory has to own a field or sales owns a field. Maybe they own the whole table. And then it was changed on this date. It's impacted by this business rule. You can have a whole bunch of information about it, but the basic is what is it called, what can be put in it, and what cannot be put in it. That's the basic you need to know, and the length. You probably always need to know the length.
Meta's a great concept to be aware of in general. And it also makes you sound kind of cosmic.
Yeah, it does. And then you
So
have the
meta, man.
Yeah. The lead business analysts and the project team have come up with 3 design options that would potentially achieve the desired future state. She needs an expert to provide input about the constraints and cost implications for each option. Who is the best person to provide guidance? So for this, they've come up with 3 design options that would potentially provide it. She needs to get a little bit more information. So which task is she in?
Analyzing design options.
Do you think she's in analyze? Define design options, maybe?
3.
Find design options.
Okay, yeah. Define design
Okay,
options.
you're getting 2 names crunched together there. So it's define design options. And so which person would be the best one to describe? So we know we have stakeholders for that one. Would it be for the constraints and cost implications? Yes, Bob.
It's back up. You might be in 7.6. So the options have already been identified, and now you're trying to figure out their relative value.
Okay.
So
I think you're correct.
Consider that idea.
Okay, you think implementation subject matter expert would be the one to talk about constraints and cost implications?
Mhm.
Okay, do I have a
I'd
second
say
vote?
A, actually.
I agree with B.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
agree with B too.
Let's test B. Implementation SMEs use their expertise to provide input about the constraints and costs of a solution. Domain SMEs provide the expertise within the business and provide input for the potential benefits of a solution. So, go team, good job. When creating a requirements model, business analysts determine the specific categories and specific models within the categories to be used. Which of the following is not an example of a category? Would it be cost, capability, peoples and roles, or rationale?
Maybe C. People and roles. Cost capability. Or rational. So I would eliminate A and B. What do you guys think? Between C and D.
I will go for C as well.
Okay, why do you like C?
It sounds weird as a category. I
People and
don't
roles.
remember by
But
heart.
people enroll, I mean, it's
Okay, this is a stated category.
Yeah,
It's the cost.
cost is maybe not a requirement.
Cost is a requirement in a different area when we are looking at.
Value.
7.1.
Yep.
Really?
Let's see, we've got expected costs in 7.6. I think it's in a previous chapter, right? Sorry, I'm fighting with my keyboard. Okay. So capability, people and roles, and rationale. Let me find where rationale is. Let's see if there's anything else.
I don't know if this makes sense, but looking at those three answers, I think of the who,
What?
the who, what, yeah, and why,
Why
and
instead
cost
of
wouldn't be part of that. But I don't know if that's
Page 138.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can check the watermark book on page 237. It has the category that diagram.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Process isn't there.
Okay, y'all got that reference? Let's move on. What is the purpose of creating user stories when specifying requirements? So the purpose of creating user stories to specify requirements is a brief statement about what people do or need to do when using a solution. To represent the acceptance and evaluation criteria attributes of requirements. To specify a set of interactions between a system and one or more actors. Or to prevent scope creep.
A or C. Maybe A.
yeah, I like A.
You like A?
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
This is the purpose for using user stories as a technique in the specifying model requirements task. Remember, we talked earlier about techniques can be used for different reasons in different tasks. This is the one that is identified here. What is the purpose of estimation in determining the potential value for each design option? Purpose of estimation when we're in this task, is it to create and estimate the measurements used in defining value? To forecast and estimate each stakeholder's value in the project? To be able to provide some figures to the executives? To forecast the costs and efforts of meeting the requirements? Let's eliminate some of these. What can we eliminate?
See.
A, B, and C.
You think?
One.
Yeah, maybe B eliminate.
You want to eliminate D also?
B.
Oh,
B is in boy.
okay.
Boy.
Yeah, so
Okay.
C and B.
So we think we're down to D, is that correct?
Yeah.
This is correct. The purpose of estimation is to forecast the costs and efforts in meeting the requirements. Oh, we've got time. I'm going to tell y'all. Estimation in the BABOK, we wrote it 10 years ago, you know. It has 6 different ways to do estimation. I really thought they were punking me whenever I read one of them because it's like, that doesn't even make sense to me. Since then, they've done some studies that have discovered that humans don't estimate well. We're just not good at it. In fact, they've figured out that instead of trying to give numbers for in estimating, that if you use a scale based upon something that's not numbers, and my favorite one was dog breeds, you know, the little bitty dogs to the big dogs, and you say the middle dog is this story, and then you know that's a dachshund, and this, you know, so I've heard all kinds of different ranges, but they're more consistent and more accurate if they don't use numbers, which makes no sense to me. Yes, Bob.
And kind of the thing you're saying about not using numbers is if you use a Fibonacci technique, which means the bigger you get, the bigger the jumps are. That's kind of not quite in numeric, but it's kind of an elegant verbal way of thinking about it. And the other thing is, the more your estimates will be more accurate if you have specific examples of things you've done before.
Right.
So the more information you have and the more experience you have, the better your estimations will be, and the more novel and the more unknown the situation is, the worse it's going to be.
And if your team is consistent, you don't have people leaving and coming in, you're working on the same type of project that you did before, those things just seem to never happen. So that's one reason Agile and doing things, and let's just figure out the next step to get there, work on just a little step, you can estimate better of how much can you get done in 2 weeks than you can to say, this is how long the whole thing's going to take. Okay, in order to validate requirements, what must you do first?
C, verify requirements.
Or D, specifying models. So
If you don't have them written down, it's hard to validate them.
That's
yeah.
true. Yep.
The C.
You got to write them
I was
down
jumping
before you
ahead.
can.
Yep.
Why is C wrong? Because it is in fact correct.
So C is done after D2, but it doesn't precede the validate requirements.
Right.
You verify first, then you validate.
No.
You can
Yep.
do them concurrently.
I don't buy
Okay,
Specify
but
model
that's
is done
what
first.
says.
Yes.
Also, verify is 7.2, validate is 7.3.
That's true, but they can be done concurrently.
Yeah, it's a trick.
On the
The
same.
BABOK is
Trick
smoking crack.
Thank you
trick
for your
question.
opinion.
Bob is lit tonight.
Which knowledge area develops models in the current state of an organization? This is the only knowledge area that we're in, so I'm going to answer it for y'all. Because we are rad. The specifying model requirements task is done in this knowledge area. Which of the following data models is typically used by implementation subject matter experts to describe how databases are physically organized? Is it the multivariable data model, the physical data model, the conceptual data model, or the logical data model?
Physical.
Let's eliminate one.
B, physical data model.
Yeah.
That's the correct answer.
Mhm.
Is there a multivariable data model? Nope.
No.
And there is a conceptual,
It's
but
high
that is
level.
independent upon any solution or technology. There is a logical. This is associated with the designer solution. So these are your three types of data models. Physical is the correct answer.
And it's in the equation. It's physically organized. It gives it.
Yeah.
I know.
Physically
It was a
organized.
gimme almost. Which
You
statement about
know,
technique?
Thea, you've gotten this stuff down so cold. I'm beginning to wonder if you need me anymore.
Oh, we always need you, Bob.
We always need you,
It's a
Bob.
compliment.
That reminds me, I gonna take a sideline here. Bob, I changed our website today for the Tampa Bay and put your stuff right at the top.
Oh, there you go.
We also
Maybe
have
I'll
all of the
better
other
update.
associations and all of our recruiters. The recruiting companies, not the recruiters themselves. So, but Bob, you're at the top because I was tired of telling people, go here and then go down to the bottom. You know, it's like, just go here. So
I assumed it was there already, so whatever.
it was, but it was kind of buried. But I named it Bob's Amazing Index.
All right.
There you go.
And he puts, guys, he puts so much work into this. He has categorized all 150 hours of our 160 now of our YouTube things by date, by speaker, and by topic. So
Wow.
you could, well, I'm just going to show you, by golly. If you go down about 3/4 of the way, here is links by Babok Knowledge Area. Look at the new ones. This is you guys.
Oh,
So
wow.
for chapter 3, here's all of the questions. Here's chapter 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then here's
Oh,
the student
nice.
principles. Then here's underlying competencies and all that jazz. And here's all of the techniques. Bob did all this for us.
Bob, thank you for that because I've been
Yes.
stalking YouTube like a mad woman and I'm watching more than I should. So thank you.
So yes, Bob, we still need you. Okay, which statement about techniques is the most correct? Which means they're probably all correct, but one is most correct. Techniques provide step-by-step instructions on how to accomplish a specific task. Techniques are prescribed by the Babok. Techniques provide additional information on a way a task can be performed, or techniques vary depending upon the perspective from which the business analysis is being performed. Let's eliminate one.
We can eliminate B, I guess. Even though,
Yeah, they're prescribed.
I mean, they're prescribed by the Babok, but it's not like a, for me, it's not like a full statement.
Yeah.
Prescribe means you got to do it.
Okay.
None of the techniques are you got to do it,
Oh,
except for maybe
oh.
stakeholder lists, maps, and personas. You pretty much got to do that one. But anything else we can eliminate?
I think you can eliminate A, not step-by-step instructions.
Sure.
Okay, so what do we think the correct answer is?
Maybe D.
Yeah, I think
You
so
like D
too.
better than C?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say C though.
I
Why do you like C?
was gonna say C.
Because for me, like a technique is more of a way of doing something than a perspective of a business analysis
Okay.
itself being performed.
This one seems to be talking about the technique, and this one seems to be more focused on the perspective.
Yes.
Right.
All agree? Let's
Business
test it.
analyst.
This is the most correct statement about techniques. Let's see what it says about D. This is not true. The core definition of a technique is static through its application and may be modified based upon the situation. C is correct.
You
Are
will
we-
never get a question like that on the exam.
No, but you are learning the concepts now. And the Babok actually does say this about techniques, that techniques provide additional information on ways a task can be performed. That's a quote out of it. Mary is preparing to allocate requirements to solution components and releases to best achieve the objective and maximize value. What should Mary do? So Mary is doing what task?
Allocate requirements.
Allocate
Installation
requirements.
components unrelated.
She's allocating the requirements, and that's an element of which task? It's the third element in.
That was the question. We got it wrong at the beginning.
It's the third element in which task?
Define design options.
You closed the you shared the window, but you closed it very fast.
I gave it to you. I sent it to you.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I know. So for define design options,
Yeah.
she's getting ready to do this. So what should she do first? Should she ensure her requirements are validated and prioritized? Ensure her requirements are verified and tested? Ensure her requirements are verified and traced? Or ensure her requirements are designed and approved by the implementation SMEs? I think this is asking for an input into that task.
I think it's C.
You
I would
think the
agree.
requirements were verified and traced?
Yes.
I agree.
Maybe A.
You like
If we are talking
requirements?
about maximizing value, it
Validated and prioritized.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, let's test A. Only validated requirements are considered in design options, and knowing the requirements priorities aids the suggestion of reasonable design options. So let's look at the input into this task. I'm showing it to you again. Pay attention. So in defined design options, the inputs are requirements that are prioritized and validated, as well as your change strategy, as well as your requirements architecture. So you need those things to do your requirements
Prioritized and
allocation.
validated.
Make sense? All right. I'm taking it away again. This is tough parenting. Your organization has announced an initiative to streamline accounts payable processes across all of its divisions. You are a business analyst assigned to analyze current business processes and recommend one process for all divisions. Which of the following are you least likely to do? Again, on the real test, it doesn't ask you least. It says, which one would you do? But in this case, 3 of these you would do, and 1 of these you would be least likely to do. You are analyzing current processes and recommending one for all divisions. So which task are you in?
analyzing design options and recommend a solution.
Okay. Analyze potential value and recommend solution.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. You're getting there. So for that one, which you're least likely to do is going to probably mean that these are elements and you need to know which task you're in to know the elements. So would it be increase your complexity of system interfaces, map the current processes of all divisions to identify and eliminate redundancies, improve access to information, or recommend a new process to increase consistency of behavior? There's one of these that kind of jumps out at us as business analysts. It's like, I would never do that. Which one
Increase
is
the complexity.
A.
Let's make it harder.
Let's
Goodness
make it harder,
gracious.
yeah.
We want to decrease complexity of system interfaces and processes. Jennifer, who's been working on defining design options, identifies that the bank managers from various branches have common needs that can be better met via a single solution, thereby reducing costs. What kind of improvement opportunity is she looking at? So which task is she in?
The defining
Defining
design
design
options.
options.
Defining design options, and the improvement opportunity is either automating the work, identifying additional capabilities, improve access to information, or eliminating redundancy.
Let's say D, with eliminating redundancy.
Yeah, I agree with D.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are looking for
This
single
is one of the
solution.
examples of opportunities that the business analyst is likely to identify.
Mm.
So eliminating redundancy. Let me find that real quick. Oh, I don't have the whole list here. This is what I have: increase efficiencies, improve access to information, identify capabilities, etc. I wimped out on that one. You are a business analyst working on a project with complex business function. What approach would you use to help identify constituent parts of the complex business function? So you want to identify pieces that make up the whole. Would it be problem decomposition, process modeling, work breakdown structure, or functional decomposition?
I would say D.
I would say
Yeah.
D.
This is correct. Very good. This is one of the things that business analysts need to be very skilled at, and it isn't easy as it looks, right? You go into it at first and you think, sure, that's going to be easy, but you learn as you do it how to make it better, how to do it better. Atomic is a characteristic of requirements and design quality. What does it mean? It is at the level that will guide further work. It contains no extraneous or unnecessary content. It is small, atom-like. It is self-contained and capable of being understood independently of all other requirements or designs.
D.
D. Yeah.
B.
B is in boy?
No.
D is in
Okay.
dog.
D is in dog.
Thank you. This is the correct definition. What kind of diagram is used in the specified model requirements task to show how processes or objects interact during a scenario by showing the information that's passed between them? So there's a specific model that talks about information exchange. Is it a context diagram, an activity diagram, a process diagram, or a sequence diagram?
Context diagram, perhaps?
Maybe a sequence.
I hear sequence and I hear context.
And I want to be difficult and say activity because you said that would be like a workflow.
I was thinking more of a workflow as well, but
Okay. So are you voting for B, Robin?
sure.
Okay, let's test it. Okay.
Sequence. Okay.
An activity diagram is a type of process model and not used in the specified model requirements task.
Now,
A sequence
that
diagram.
said, you can, as a practical matter, you can include all kinds of communications on activity diagrams. I do it all the time. The thing that a sequence diagram gives you is the sequential timing and also the what's that word I'm looking for? The dependency on waiting for a return. Some things you have you send a message off, you have to wait for a return, and sometimes you just send a message off and you go on your way. Synchronous and non-synchronous.
Yes, synchronous and non-synchronous. That's correct.
The
Any
old pea
questions about this
brain came through.
Okay, let's go. Last question. A model is a descriptive and visual way to convey information to a specific audience in order to support analysis, communication, and understanding. What would the business analyst typically model? Requirements and solutions, requirements and designs, needs and requirements, or needs and solutions? Do we model needs? Or do we model the requirements that explain the needs?
I think we
Requirements and design.
model the requirements. Yeah.
Okay, so we can eliminate those two. Do we model designs or do we model solutions?
Not solutions.
Requirements are modeled when the focus is on understanding the need. Designs are modeled when the focus is on the solution. Okay, guys, if you were taking this test by yourself on this knowledge area and you got this score, I can't tell you for sure, but I'm confident that you would pass. We still believe that the passing score is about 72. We also know that watermark is harder than the actual test. So how do you feel about moving on to chapter 8 next week?
I'm good with that.
Good with that? Okay, let's talk about chapter 8 for just a few minutes.
Just to let you know, Thea, I won't be here next week. I'll be at my grandson's graduation.
Well, congratulations to him and to you because you didn't kill him early.
How do you have a grandson? You look
Yeah, you're so
very
young
Oh.
for a grandson.
Well, thank you, but I do.
Okay, in this knowledge area, let's do full screen. You've got, again, 5 different tasks. Really, this is a repeat of chapter 7 in many ways. The only difference about this is that you have a solution or some portion of a solution in place that you're starting with. That's the only addition to it. It can be a solution that is complete, been there for 20 years, or a solution that a piece of it has been put in, something like that. The only other thing about this knowledge area is you're going to be interested in what the people feel about the solution. Do they feel like it meets their needs? Are they frustrated with it? Are they ignoring it because it doesn't meet their needs? So that's an added element for you to be considering whenever you're looking at chapter 8. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions? I encourage you again, read through the watermark book and then read through the BABOK for each task, one task at a time. I also encourage you to go to your list, techniques to task down here. You have one technique that's left, your roles and permissions matrix. Roles and permissions matrix is literally, it's a matrix, a spreadsheet that says the people that have this role are super users, super admins, and they can do everything. The people that are, customers, they can do these things. The people that are admins, they can do these other things. It's going to be some level of who can do what, and it's going to be based upon role. And that's the way a lot of things like Salesforce or SharePoint are configured, so that you have a role assigned to you, to your ID. It's probably connected to your single sign-on, and then it gives you a specific profile. That's all a roles and permissions matrix is, but you need to understand what its weaknesses and strengths are. Any questions? Okay. I want to congratulate y'all. You're in your last chapter of study for the BABOK, for the CBAP test. Now, after we finish chapter 8, we're going to do probably chapter 8 and chapter 7 together, and maybe do that 2 weeks, and then maybe chapter 6, 7, 8, and 6 together, and do that for 2 weeks. And if we decide we're getting too many wrong in a certain chapter, we may just do that one chapter for the following week. Whatever we need to do as a group to make y'all comfortable and help you find your gaps. We're still looking for gaps. I'm not expecting you to know everything. And did you notice that as we went through chapter 7, you kind of understood a little bit more about chapter 6? Some of the things we had talked about. You're going to do the same thing in chapter 8 to chapter 7 and chapter 6. Okay. Any questions? Has anybody started working on their application that you are anticipating needing help with?
Not
I
Yeah,
am
Michelle? Okay.
pretty much
Whenever you get to a point where you feel like you've done what you think you should do, even if you have questions, go ahead and set up some time with me. Contact me through
okay.
LinkedIn. We'll figure out a time that we can work together, and I'll just do a review. What I would appreciate you doing, do the best you can. If you have questions about a specific field, turn that field yellow. Do the highlight fill yellow. That's my thing that I use for all my documentation. It's like, I've got a question about this one. This one we need to talk about. And then whenever it's good, I make it clear again. So you do the best you can. Remember, they are not going to nitpick. They are going to look at it at a reasonably high level, but just in case you were to get audited, you need to have it very specific at the same time. So get your stuff in there. Over the next 90 days, I'm hoping that each one of you will have your application turned in and get yourself scheduled. Okay? All right, guys. I hope if you're in the United States, you have a happy 3-day weekend. And if you're not in the United States, you probably had 3-day weekends that we don't even know about. So, yeah. Okay. My offshore people in India, you know, it's like, we've got a 4-day weekend and we're going to have a festival. And I'm like, for what? Nobody invited me.
Come on, Lee, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I know you're doing good. I know that you're getting tired. We're near the end. You're going to make it. Just keep going, okay?
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Thank
Thank
guys.
you. Have a good weekend,
Yeah,
everybody.
bye.
Very good
Have a
thing.
great weekend, everyone.